Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about carpet care. And I'd also like to thank Handy Camel. They gave us a 5-star review and rating on iTunes.
Do you have any carpet care history?
I do. So in the 1800s, because most homes, there was such a lack of ventilation, they were using fireplaces and all these old stoves that created a ton of soot inside the house, and then there was all this dust and dirt people would just drag in. So one of the big techniques was just taking and most rugs were area rugs at the time, so they would take them outside and just beat them with a stick. So you had a special stick to beat your rugs with. And then in the 1830s, one of the top stain removal tips for carpets was to get the juice of a lemon, bake a loaf of bread, and while that bread was warm, put the lemon juice on the stain and then rub it vigorously with the loaf of bread. And then in Did
it work?
Evidently, that was one of the top tips of the time. So evidently, whatever the stains were.
I guess there was no Yelp review saying that it didn't work.
Right. In 1868, the first manual vacuum was invented, and it's wild. I've seen some pictures of this, and there was like a hand crank. So you had to crank this fan with one hand to make it work, and then with your other hand, you had to try to push it over the vacuum.
Wow, that sounds difficult.
So that was the beginnings of carpet care. So what's interesting about carpets is they act like a giant filter. They're grabbing all this dust and pollen, dander, smoke from the air, and it kind of grabs it, it settles into it. And if you leave it in the carpet too long, it works its way down and really gets trapped in the fibers of the carpet and then can actually get underneath it. So one government study said that from their research, they analyzed people in the workplace and in their homes who had carpets and removed them, and people actually get sick 4 times more often in places that the carpets are removed, because you're kicking up all of these germs and viruses into the air. Because what's wild is bacteria can actually live in the carpet for weeks, and the virus that causes the stomach flu can live about a month in a dirty carpet.
Yeah, that's gross.
Which is really interesting, isn't it? So it's one reason, especially if you have a baby, you want to vacuum a lot. And if you don't have a carpet, or if you've removed your carpet, that carpet tends to kind of hold it and trap it like a filter. Whereas on hardwood floors or tile floors, all this dust and pollen and bacteria and viruses actually get stirred up into the air as you're walking, where a carpet kind of holds them. So it actually kind of keeps the air cleaner if you have a carpet in it. One thing that most of the experts agree on, that your carpeting should be thoroughly vacuumed at least once a week, because this buildup of dirt actually acts like sandpaper,
right?
And it slowly grinds and damages the fibers of the carpet. And then we're constantly losing skin. It comes off of our body, and it usually has our body oils on it. And then as we breathe, we're putting oils into the air. And when dirt combines with these oils, if they're left in the carpet fibers too long, they can actually glue themselves. And so they're getting the carpet stained and dirty over time if you're not thoroughly vacuuming it. So one of the key cleaning tips that almost all these experts agree on is get a very good high quality vacuum. And the better the suction, the more expensive vacuums, they say, actually do a better job at getting down and pulling out this dirt, especially deeply embedded dirt. And a beater bar, depending on the type of carpet, a beater bar does an excellent job of just vibrating, creating a little bit of motion so that the vacuum can do its job of pulling up all these particles.
Do you have any suggestions on how we could limit the amount of dirt that comes into the house?
The EPA said that 90% of the dust and dirts and the microbes that are brought into the house and get into the carpet are actually brought in on our shoes. So most professionals are saying that if you can leave your shoes outside or use a very good quality mat, and a large one too. They say that most people just have such a small entry mat,
right,
that it really doesn't do the job. You don't have enough time on that mat to really clean your shoes. So they say almost like the ones that you see like in retail stores. They want you to be able to take a few strides on this, which...
So you need like a carpet runner?
Yeah, before you get to the house. So right in front of the front door, they say if you have
like a runway?
Exactly. As if you have a landing strip of carpet before you get into the house, it does a much better job of knocking the stuff off the shoes. And then we did a video on our Fix It Home Improvement channel on YouTube for that product Dr. Doormat.
Right.
And we actually spoke to the lady who invented that. Real nice. We saw her at one of the hardware shows, and she created this doormat that's actually an antimicrobial doormat. So you rub your shoes on this vigorously, and the combination of material and chemicals that are in this, and they're permanently put into this material, and it creates this static charge, and it has a chemical that not only kills microbes that are on your shoes, but it pulls it off.
Yeah.
So just a very interesting product, that Dr. Doormat. And so that's one way that you can kind of limit what's coming into your house.
Well, I have this outside my door on my condo.
And it looks nice, too. It's a thick quality thing. It's
heavy,
So that does a nice job. And most of these carpet care experts are saying, if you can just take off your shoes when you come into your house, you are really going to keep your house much cleaner just by that simple thing. And especially if you have people in your household that have asthma or any allergies, having shoes in your house or walking on your carpet really adds to the amount of allergens in your home.
So what if you're walking in like your entryway and you have tile there?
Right.
If you still have your shoes on, is that okay? Or should you have a area rug or floor mat, covering that whole area?
All these experts tell me that you should always have something to knock this debris off your shoes. So, and then all the other things that you're walking through, gum and oil and grease and stuff too. So
where are you walking?
Just around.
You should really watch where you're going.
Yeah, I guess it would be paid to be observant.
So just to review, the first step of your carpet care maintenance program should always include vacuuming once a week and having a great doormat.
Because you're going to remove over 80% of the dirt with a vacuum. And the experts say to make sure that you vacuum in multiple directions when you're doing it, and always use a beater brush on most carpets, unless it's a specialized delicate carpet. The key then is at least once a year have your carpets professionally cleaned with a hot water extraction machine. And especially if you have new carpets, which I never knew, if you have a brand new carpet, you should definitely read the warranty, because most of them, and I was looking up a few online, they vary anywhere from 12 to 18 months. You're required to have a professional company come in and steam clean or hot water extraction your carpet, and then you need to keep your receipt. And some of them vary. Some of them have like anti-stain, and they say that no carpet is stain-proof.
Right.
But these new chemicals that they put on it will resist most stains, especially if you go after it right. And we'll talk about that in a couple minutes, how to immediately go after it and try to blot up these stains. So if you're buying brand new carpeting, you are required to have it professionally cleaned about once a year.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, very interesting. And then I actually have a very interesting site. It's called the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration Certification.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
So the website is iicrc.org, and they're a nonprofit certifying agency. So you can actually look up on their list of pros whether they have gone through this training, and they're considered a quality company that you can trust.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's a nice resource. So no matter how often you vacuum, you still need to deep clean your carpet with one of these hot water extraction machines. So if you have a new carpet, you're going to want to hire a professional because you want to maintain your warranty. But if you're moved into a home and you don't have the warranty, you have an older carpet, you can rent or buy one of these hot water extraction machines. And like at our hardware store, we had the Rug Doctor.
Right.
So you can rent that for $25 a day. It does a fantastic job. And in fact, on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement, I go through the steps on how to use that tool. Some of them are called steam cleaners, but they're actually just hot water with a high-powered vacuum, because a true steam cleaner can actually damage some carpets.
Really?
Yeah, so you just want to use a hot water extraction. And then some of them, like my mom, in fact, years ago, I bought her a Bissell, and it had one of those little cartridges that have the soap in it.
Right.
And, now Bissell has a couple like that, I still think, but more and more they're going to just different containers where you can put a little bit of soap in one container so that you're not having to buy a cartridge. Because the one I bought her, actually they don't make it anymore, so you can't get those little cartridges, which were really handy. But
your mom is an antique dealer.
True. Yeah, so it fits. But she can't use it because we can't get those little soap dispensers anymore. So that's one of my tips. If you're buying one of these machines, I wouldn't get one that uses a specialized cartridge. I get one that has a tank where you can just add a little bit of the cleaner to it.
So each one of these machines have a lot of different types of soap that you could use.
Yes.
It just depends on what you're looking to do. There's like for pets and just
bacteria in it. Yeah.
Right, just a regular stain removal one.
Right.
And just your regular carpet shampoo. No matter what kind you're using, you need to make sure that you're not using too much of it.
Yeah, you don't want to overdo it because it can leave a residue and actually attract dirt. So if you made a mistake, I would use a little less soap than too much. And you never want to overdo the amount of water that you put into the carpet too, because when you pull the triggers on these, it dispenses the water and then the vacuum sucks it up right away as it agitates it. So on most of these, the design is you've got the little nozzles that dispense the hot water. It pushes it into the carpet. The beater brush works it in, and then as you're pulling this machine, then it has a high suction vacuum that sucks it dry.
Right.
And we always recommended that they do an area and then come back and go back over it with just the vacuum on without dispensing any water, because you don't want to overdo it, because if you oversaturate your carpet and you leave it for over 24 hours, and if it's in a high humidity condition, you can actually start to grow mold and mildew. So
one of the first times my mom did the Rug Doctor machine, it was like wet for like a day.
Right. Which you do not want.
Right. And then I was trained on it at the store and stuff, and then we did the carpets here at the condo, and I'm like, wow, this dried really fast. But
and that's the technique, especially if you do an area, because and different machines do it different. Some you can actually push forward and backward, like the Rug Doctor at the hardware store. You always want to pull it. So you go into a corner, let's say, and you pull the trigger and you're pulling it back towards you and you're moving over the carpet slowly.
Right.
But then I like to go back over that area at least once with just the vacuum. And you could do that a couple times in each area, and you're really going to pull most of the water. It should just be barely damp.
Right.
And then if it's, if you have the windows open or if it's a nice day, it should dry very quickly. It shouldn't be soaking wet. That's not the technique. I've got another organization. It's called the Carpet and Rug Institute, and they have a seal of approval. So if you're thinking about buying one of these machines, their website is carpet-rug.org, and they have a green label program where they actually test all of these different models and they give their ratings. They do vacuums, they do rug cleaners, because some of the vacuums, if it sucks up so much dirt, but then the vacuum actually throws that dirt into the air, it doesn't meet their approvals.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of an interesting rating system, their green label program. But the top rated models that we saw, and we didn't really have much in our trade magazines, but online, Bissell, Hoover, and Oreck were some of the top-rated carpet cleaners. And I would look at the individual machines, because it seems like some of these models change throughout the years. That Bissell Big Green, it's kind of a pro-grade machine that was rated pretty high, but that's around $400. Bissell has a couple models that start around $150. They were rated very good.
Well, I guess how often should you clean your carpets?
So they say at least once a year. Especially if you have your own machine, it should be once a year at the minimum.
How about if you have a pet or?
Then the more often you do it, the better.
Right. So you're really getting your money's worth if you're buying your own machine.
Absolutely.
Instead of renting it all the time.
But again, you have to weigh that. If you have a brand new carpet with a warranty, an expensive carpet, then they kind of demand that you have receipts from a professional.
Right.
Which is interesting. So it's kind of a balance between those. So let's go over a couple of tips if you spill something on your carpet, how to make a homemade stain remover.
Okay.
So the basic recipe is 1/4 teaspoon of liquid soap to 1 quart of warm water. And they emphasize, most of these cleaning experts emphasize that you use a clear liquid soap. So like Dawn or Joy or Ivory. You want anything that is non-clear. If it looks a little cloudy, it can actually leave a residue. And then you want to make sure that you always have white cotton cloths in your house or paper towels that don't have coloring. And whenever you're using any of these stain removers that we're talking about, you always want to test for color fastness in an inconspicuous spot. Because some specialized carpets like wool, cotton, or silk can actually be damaged by some of these cleaners.
You could have silk carpet?
Yeah, cool, huh?
I guess. Seems slippery.
So we always want to dab or blot a stain. We never want to rub it aggressively, which I never knew. You can actually unwind the fiber of some carpet, and it puts more wear and tear on it. So they say with all the stain removal, the faster you get at it, the better the results are going to be. And scrubbing it can actually damage your carpet. And never apply heat to any stains or if you spill anything, because it can set it into the carpet. So if you just spilled something, you want to go after it right away with a white cotton cloth or paper towel and start dabbing it and blotting at it. And then you want to use your stain removal formula. So a 1/4 teaspoon of liquid soap to a quart of water, and you want to get it really damp on that cloth and start blotting it. And then really work it until you feel like it looks like all the stain is up. Then you're going to go after it with a dry cotton cloth or paper towels and keep working it. So you're kind of working from wet to dry. And then one tip is, if you have a wet, dry vac, you can be a little more aggressive with the solution in the beginning, because then you can pull up that excess moisture with the wet vac.
Oh, that's smart.
And that's kind of just the basic formula. And then we can get into some specialized stuff. If you have blood on your carpet, you're going to want to use cold water and hydrogen peroxide. So a little bit of hydrogen peroxide in cold water and blot it with a cotton cloth. And that's going to do a nice job. And most of these formulas we're talking about, again, you can kind of test these first in an inconspicuous area before you ever have a problem. But for blood, they say that hydrogen peroxide just does an amazing job. Now, if you spill latex paint on your carpet, you'd want to use that liquid soap formula and go after it right away and keep working at it until you get it all up. For oil-based paint, you'd want to go after it with a mineral spirits. And you'd want to use mineral spirits rather than paint thinner, because mineral spirits, it's more refined, it has less smell. And so you're just putting a little bit of mineral spirits on that cotton cloth and you're just blotting it. Then you would go after it with that liquid soap formula.
So if you don't have like old t-shirts or rags around the house, at the hardware store we do sell a bag of rags, which are just white and cotton rags that are already cut up. I use them for everything.
Fantastic to have around the house.
It's nice not having to worry about, your washcloths, getting them dirty or stained.
For all kinds of projects. I think it's one of the things that every homeowner should have around. So for pet urine on a carpet, those types of stains, the best product is still the bacterial cleaners. And that bacteria is all natural. It won't damage the carpet. It'll get right in. It'll actually eat it and turn it into carbon dioxide and water, which is pretty amazing. And we always had the Rug Doctor has a line of cleaners with bacteria. We sold the unique products, and there's a couple of companies that do a real nice job, but those are the ones that we carried and customers really liked them.
So I've used both of these products, the unique stuff. It's a process, though. It has to be wet. You have to activate it, and then you have to let it dry overnight with a rag on top of it.
Very smart. So when you apply these bacterial products, especially if it's in one area, you need to really work the bacteria cleaner into it, and you need to keep it damp. So you'll take a wet rag and cover that stain with the bacterial product on the carpet, and you want it to stay moist for 12 to 24 hours because the bacteria needs that moisture to do its job. If it dries out, the bacteria dies.
But it's super easy to use. I like it. Like you said, there's no rubbing, there's no blotting, there's no nothing.
Chemicals, yeah.
You just let it do its job.
Nature, yeah.
But you have to use it correctly. Make sure you read the directions on it, because I love these products. They do, it's nice. It's all natural. I don't have to worry about, the smell or anything like that.
Right. But it's true. If you don't read the instructions and you just put it down and let it dry right away, it'll kill the bacteria and they won't do their job.
Well, most of these are a concentrate too that you pour it into a different, into a bucket,
Right.
let it wake up, and then you use it.
Yeah, very interesting.
So if you're just pouring it straight on your carpet,
right.
you're not doing anything. They're dormant.
Right, again and again, read the instructions.
Yeah. Then for other pet stains, for a regular chemical, I like the Resolve, the pet stain removal.
Okay.
And it does a fantastic job. So, like I have a cat, depending on where he's thrown up.
Right.
And
It's Resolve?
yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't like to use, the regular chemicals by his water bowl or his
Right,
food
right.
bowl because that smell bothers him and
Right.
he ends up throwing up again. So, that's where I use, the unique products. But, anywhere else, easy to use. It's ready to use. You just spray it on.
Something else you get at the hardware store.
Yeah, but that does a fantastic job, too.
So if you drip wax or if you get gum on your carpet,
Ugh,
they've
that
got
sounds like a nightmare.
It is. So they say you should freeze it. So either
And how would you do that?
So get some dry ice, which I'm sure is a process to try to track down dry ice. But they sell a product called chewing gum remover. So it's an aerosol can, and when you spray it, it freezes anything that you spray on. So you freeze the wax or you freeze the gum, and it releases, so it loses its adhesion
Right.
to the carpet fiber. So just a very easy way to kind of go after wax and gum, which are a nightmare
Yeah.
on carpet, and you can kind of then break off. You can hit it with a hammer or kind of scrape at it with maybe like a credit card and then do a little section at a time until you get it all up. So just kind of an interesting, and I think you can get that chewing gum remover online if you're in an area where you don't have a lot of retail stores with kind of a specialized item like this. But that's kind of a cool product. So it's really not that difficult. With a couple good routines, you can really add a lot of life to your carpet and keep your air quality cleaner just by vacuuming once a week and then having it professionally cleaned or just renting a carpet cleaner once a year.
So I guess that wraps up this episode then.
If you'd like to subscribe, you can subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher Radio.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
You could subscribe to that as well.
If you'd like to email us, you can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.
Thank you.